Oh my gosh, it is Friday. I'm so excited. I know some of you know I'm on a 20-day Florida trip, and I just want to say, almost never say sorry. We have a no sorry zone, but I'm actually going to use it this time intentionally. Hey, I'm so sorry for all my friends who are in the Northwest who are getting hammered by this snowstorm. And I'm sure now the rest of us, most of you will chat sorry, not sorry, because this is what's outside my left window. I'm currently broadcasting live from Satellite Beach here in Florida. We're about 1 hour away from where rockets launch, and there would have been a rocket launch Thursday, but there was apparently something wrong in the pre-flight checklist. By the way, that's a great tip for virtual meetings is to have a pre-flight checklist, and it didn't make it, so they moved that launch to Sunday, where I will no longer be at this amazing beach. But anyways, that's it. It's 76 and sunny right now here at Satellite Beach. And by the way, for those who wanted to know, this is the this is the setup that I am rocking here. But my guest actually noticed, going, "Oh, you don't even have to look left. You can just look straight ahead, and you're gonna get the view." So that is correct. All right. So, anyways, that's what's going on here. And now I have an amazing guest. And this amazing guest, too, has done a lot of research and gave me a paper about some of the key parts around virtual networking, because that is a challenge. So many people say, I can't network on virtual, right? Well, I just want you to tune into this part and listen up, because I know my next guest truly has all the info here. So let's welcome Amanda Lee Kaiser, like the roll. Hey, Amanda, how you doing?
Hi, John. I'm doing great. It's so great to be here. And I've got to say, I am super jealous about your whole setup and what you're seeing out your window right now.
Well, thank you so much. It was one of the trips that we planned. The reasoning for it too, Amanda, and this is actually a good too. One of them is that we really haven't, of course, traveled. So I did need to travel for this conference, and then we just looked at it and said, why don't we just stay? And so we had been in 4 or 5 different locations. I'm about to go visit a friend who retired in Venice, Florida. But most of all, it's around taking a break. Taking a break from your normal environment. While again, I do miss my beautiful, amazing studio. Seattle doesn't have this right now. It does not have waves and sand and sun. And so just getting a change of venue has been really good for my personal mental health.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, I mean, when you can double up work and vacation, it's sort of the best combination, right?
Well, and this is, you want to live your best virtual life. This is it, right? You can work from anywhere, and as long as you plan correctly, you can work from anywhere. So, speaking of work from anywhere, Amanda, do us a favor for my friends who don't know you. Introduce yourself, and of course, what do you do?
Yeah, so John is absolutely right. So my name is Amanda Lee Kaiser, and I am a keynote speaker, and I'm also an author, and a very, very new author. I know John's been writing books for years now, but for me, my book just launched 2 weeks ago, and it's called Elevating Engagement: Uncommon Strategies for Creating a Thriving Member Community. So this book was inspired by 477 in-depth member interviews and all of my experiments with engagement. And I use that to walk readers through the 6 steps of member engagement. And when I say member engagement, I'm really talking about members of professional communities like associations or societies or for-profit professional communities, which perhaps are user groups. And many of these communities host tons of events. So there are just so many event engagement stories packed into this book, and I'm delighted to be here to talk to John about the research and also the book.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amanda. Now, I'm looking at your report, and again, if you haven't seen this report, it is titled, let's see if I got the right title, Host Your Own Meaningful Network Events, and something that you did, I believe, with Matchbox Virtual Media and Kaiser Insights. And one of your first points in here was, why is the value of virtual networking experiences poor? Can you say a little bit more about what you discovered with that?
Yeah, so Ariana Riak, she's the CEO of Matchbox Virtual. We got together in the deep doldrums, during the pandemic, And during the pandemic, we said, okay, so all of these organizations are taking their in-person conferences and they're putting them online, and the education's pretty good. But what is absolutely missing is the networking part of things. People are really struggling to create connections online. And we wondered if it could even be done. And so that was the genesis of the virtual networking incubator. So we got together 150 association executives, which is super cool. And we created these labs. So we had 6 labs, and we explored networking platforms. We explored networking activities. We explored, tips, tricks, themes, and just trying to figure out if it did work. And the answer is yes. And then, if virtual networking can happen in an event setting, then what makes that super successful? And sort of the quick answer is that you've got to, as a host, you've got to plan lots of structure and lots of activities. So just trying to replicate a reception type thing where people organically meet each other doesn't work as well as something very, very, very structured.
That's interesting, Amanda, because if you haven't joined us, every Friday we've been hosting a virtual happy hour, an engaging virtual happy hour, every Friday, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, since March of 2020. And that was my opportunity to really experiment with formats. And it really has some easy rules, Amanda, which, this is the only way I think it could be successful. One is that we had no agenda, right? We never recorded, we almost never live streaming unless we had a presenter. But that all of these elements, what I discovered is that we end up creating the highest psychological safety of any virtual meeting, because people were then, disclosing, if you go back to April 2020, everything is changing so quickly. And people were like, I got a job, I lost a job, I got exposed, I'm quarantined for 14 days, I have no idea what's up, where's my toilet paper? So, people were sharing what was real, and we had people tuning in from around the world. And so that is the one place where non-structure, but again, I'm the host, so I am providing like the facilitator and the instructive piece. So that's, I think, the element that made it work. But I also think there's this element of non-structured is what people loved about it, is because anything could happen during this meeting. So I'd love to hear what else your commentary said about that, about either unstructured or facilitated and non-facilitated.
Yeah. Okay. So I think maybe I'm, this is what our experience was. What we were doing is we were bringing a big group together, and they by and large didn't know each other. So they were all strangers. So that's where, if you suddenly have 150 people that are all trying to meet each other at the same time and they don't know each other, this highly structured template really works for us. And where unstructured really works, and where, say like the in-person reception kind of works, is when you've got a group that knows each other, perhaps a small group and a lot of people who know each other. But if you take, I'm thinking of some of the large conferences with the huge reception. Those can be, just an anxiety factory for a new person that walks in. You walk into the room and you buzz on over to the bar and you get your drink and turn around and your heart sinks, because everybody's already clumped up in their groups and everybody's having so much fun and they're laughing and talking, and you are standing there with your drink all alone, right? And so, it doesn't work in person, and it doesn't work really well online. And of course, there's exceptions to the rule. And it could be that that even if you had a group where everybody was strangers, you as the facilitator created that experience that made it so lovely for people. And so when I talk about structure, I guess I'm talking about it loosely. It's that there is that there's somebody who's kind of giving people the nudge. It's okay to participate. It's okay to connect. It's okay to be yourself. And so structure can be as small as that, or as large as I've got every minute of this entire hour planned out, and here we go.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, I love that you're sharing your research. Now, one of the most surprising pieces for me in this report is a section that you called Data Shows Our Rose-Colored Glasses Are Fairly Correct. And I'm actually going to put it up here on screen here for you. I'd love for you to talk about what do these results mean, and of course, how did you get them? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really love this particular chart because one of the questions that that we asked at the end of every one of the 6 labs is, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about this experimental network event? And we also asked, how do you feel about traditional networking? So again, this happened. We had all just gone from normal life, and then in 6 months, after COVID started, we were at home, we were doing virtual. A lot of people had a lot of experience with virtual events, but they could still remember what in-person networking was like. And so what you see here is when we ask questions like, how are you feeling right now? Are you feeling like this was fun and venturesome? Do you feel a sense of belonging, community? Do you feel like you're part of something bigger? You feeling joy and happiness, or anxiety and concern? And what we thought was so fascinating was, kind of counterintuitively, our virtual networking events to explore virtual networking, very meta, we're really scoring high on fun and belonging and part of something bigger, and all of those good things, and very low on anxiety and concern. Whereas traditional networking, like your big reception, was scoring very high on anxiety and concern, and low on things, lower than virtual, on things like joy and happiness and being a part of something bigger than just yourself. So yes, I am glad that you brought that data to light, because we kind of came into it saying, we would love to make virtual networking events a thing, but we want to know if it can even be done. And once we said, oh yes, it can absolutely be done, Ariana and I were huge champions. And when we saw this data, we were super excited about all of the possibilities.
Of course, okay. I got to ask on the one side, what is this anxiety about? Now, my own personal impression, Amanda, is that I've gotten people fatigue now in the last 2 years. So after staying in so long, I go to an in-person event, and I'm tired. I'm the world's biggest extrovert too, Amanda. Let me just tell you, and I'm wiped out after an in-person event. So what is this anxiety or concern? I just want to make sure I understand this number of 58%. What was happening?
Yes, absolutely. So 58% of our 150 respondents to the virtual networking incubator said that in a traditional networking setting, like a reception, or like, say, a chapter meeting where there's a networking half hour, that makes them feel really anxious. Just being at a reception makes them feel really anxious. Now, in my own interviews with members, so I do hour-long interviews with members, and I hear a couple of stories. One story is sort of the first timer story. So they come to the reception, or they come to the chapter event, and it seems like everybody knows each other and they don't know anybody, and it is such an anxiety factory to be a stranger, in a room, and it's awkward. You don't know what to do with yourself and where to go, and nobody's talking to you, and you've got a small talk, and small talk. And it's even worse, in a smaller setting where, and people do this unintentionally, but in chapters, or smaller events, sometimes the board knows each other. So they're up at the front of the room and they're clumped together and they're already talking, and you're there in the back of the room, not sure what to do with yourself. So that's some of the anxiety. Now, what in my research I heard from extroverts like you is that there's walking into a room full of strangers doesn't feel anxiety provoking. However, it still might not be all that helpful. So you walk into a room of 200 strangers, the chances are that you're going to meet the person that you need to meet are really low. And that's where I think hosts can do a lot of work to not only make those connections a lot easier and facilitate connections, because it helps people who are anxious like me to connect, but it also helps make quality connections for people like you who want to meet the people they need to meet. So, if you walk into a room of people who have your exact same title or work in your exact same industry, there's still only a few people that are working on projects like you are, that have the goals like you have, that are same part of their career dealing with the same kinds of problems that you have. And wouldn't it be great if you could meet those folks and not have to sift through 15 kind of small talky conversations to get there?
Oh, that's perfect. I really love that. And yes, I think I understand that anxiety part. And even for professional extroverts, you got to take training to break that ice. And it's so weird about networking that it gets easier the more times that you stay there, because then you flip over to the other side. You're the click crowd. You know somebody in there. And I really feel like fostering or mentoring is such a key important part. Like if you are a host, whether it's either in person and virtual, is that if you're a new person, that you have this welcoming part. I have this brand new theory that I've been working around, and I believe it to be a truth, Amanda. The first 5 minutes of your virtual meeting are the most important. Can you share your thoughts on that?
I'm so with you. I'm so with you. And I think actually this is not just a virtual phenomenon, but in person as well. So absolutely. Let's talk about virtual, because one of the things that the host can do is they can set the stage. And I think that they actually set the stage within the first 30 seconds. So you're right, 5 minutes to 30 seconds, whatever it is, it's super quick. There's one thing that I talked about in the research that we experimented with a lot, and that was onboarding everybody to every virtual meeting. So you can do it in a couple of ways. You can set that tone with emails and information about how to prepare for your particular meeting in
Mm.
advance, and be real. So one of the things that we were thinking a lot about was the tones and the feelings that we want to inspire with the virtual networking incubator labs. We wanted people to be able to experiment. We wanted them to come with ideas. We wanted them to be able to just shout out an idea off the top of their head and have somebody else say, "Oh, that gives me another idea," and to get that chain of ideas rolling. Well, if you want people to not hold things back and not be afraid and come with their whole generous selves, then you want to inspire that tone of openness and creativity and fun and all of that. So we did that in the emails. We're very intentional about the tone of our emails before the events. But even the day of the event, we started doing these things called unofficial starts. And so we would open up the Zoom room. I think it was something like 3 to 4 minutes in advance, and we had these activities. So they are early birds. Everybody has early birds, right? I don't know what the number is, but maybe 30% of your attendees are early. They're there, 15 minutes early. So we'd open up the Zoom room probably about 3 minutes early, and we always had an activity. So they would come right in, and there was music playing, there was an activity to do. It was fun, it was lighthearted, and there was none of this, all of us kind of speakers sort of sitting around on mute looking at our keyboards, that awkward thing that happens. You've probably seen it, John, right? That super awkward thing that happens before most meetings.
We have a name for it, Amanda.
Oh
Do you
yeah,
know what
what's
it
the
is?
name? Yeah.
Well, if it most of the time it happens on Zoom, so we called it Zawkward.
It's awkward.
Right.
I
It's the
love
meeting
that.
that's black, right? There's no screen up there. Everyone's camera is off. No one's talking. You don't even know that you click the right link. You start to doubt that you click the right link for the right meeting. That's awkward.
Yes, I love awkward. Okay, can I steal that from you, because
Oh yeah.
I love that. I will
Just
definitely
credit me. Just
attribute
credit
it.
me. Yeah. Thanks, Amanda.
Uh, I know. Yes, I mean, I think that if I were to hazard a guess, that's 95% of meetings, right? And then somebody it'll be a minute or two where you're wondering if you're in the right place, and then somebody will come in and at 2 minutes after the start time and say, "Well, people are trickling in, so we're gonna wait another minute or two," and you're thinking, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna knock out a couple of emails here while this is going on."
And you're
And
already disengaged.
You're right. That's exactly it. And we didn't want that. So we did the surprise, the first lab we did the surprise unofficial start and the word got around. And then the next lab 2 weeks later, people were early, they were on time, and no matter what, we transitioned from the unofficial start into the official start right at the right time and off we were going. Yeah.
That's amazing, and I think that's something that I talk a lot about is virtual meeting culture. That you are creating as the host of the meeting, you are creating virtual meeting culture whether you know it or not, and that culture can either be right. We have black screens, and we're going to discredit you early birds by telling you. Let's just wait a few minutes for all the other people, which just immediately penalizes all your early birds versus right? That early bird is a great concept. We call it connection before content. We recommend to all people, number one, get on early. First, you can check all your speakers if you're doing a big presentation. And then the second of all is that you can engage immediately the people who are here early who want to be on time. Now, speaking of tech challenges, you have this one section and it says, what if we, the host, struggle with the technology during a live event? And I just want to share one of our tips. One of our key tips is never lead a big virtual meeting alone. Right. And so normally we have some form of team that is working together. Our largest example, Amanda, was 200 people working together in a conference to make it feel engaging for 1,200. That's been our ultimate example. What were some of your tips around technology hosts that start having problems?
Yeah. So again, I think some of those have ironed out, especially on Zoom. We're all pretty comfortable with Zoom, but in the association world, there's not a lot of budgets, and so people at the time that we wrote that report, people were people who didn't really use Zoom were using Zoom, and they wanted to create these live events, digitally, and there was just a lot of anxiety around technology and around using Zoom. And so a couple of things that we recommended was, in the olden days, especially for professional and trade associations, which is the world that I live in, perfect was kind of, the new black. And now, experimenting and trying things is the new black. And so what I think is totally okay is to say to people, first of all, we're going to beta test something. So you can beta test anything before you take it live to your 1,200 members or 1,200 attendees. Go ahead and do that small beta test with 40 people. And during that beta test, just set the intention, or the I don't know, you can kind of ask for grace. You can say, hey, we want to do really cool new things on your behalf, and this might not be perfect, and please come along on the ride with us, and we would love your feedback. But if something might break, and that's okay, and we're going to get through it together. So I think just saying that, and that was one of the things that we definitely said through the incubator is, this might not work, and that is okay. You're going to see us fail live, and maybe we'll give you some ideas for how to handle it gracefully as we're busy falling on our faces. I'm going to do the same thing actually in a couple of weeks. I'm getting ready to hit the road with my new keynote, and it's based on the book. And so I'm pulling together about 40 people in the industry to see my keynote live for the very first time. And one of the things I'm going to say to them is that I'm taking this, I'm road testing this with you for the very first time, and I want your feedback. And things might not work, and that's okay, because we're working on this together. So I think it's okay to let people that know that this is your first time. It doesn't have to be perfectly polished. And and for them, one of the things that I've also noticed is we as the host know exactly how things are supposed to go. And when they don't go that way, we're busy panicking inside and the world is falling apart. But sometimes your audience or your participants are so happy that they're getting ready, that they're able to connect, and it's interactive and something's new and it's surprising, that they don't even know that things are just falling to pieces on your end, the host end.
Yeah, I think one of the new secret tools of engagement is vulnerability.
Mm.
So if you open up with this vulnerability that says, look, this keynote's not polished, right? Or other things like that. We actually saw this in the top keynote that we had. Do you remember Elizabeth Gilbert? Do you remember she
I
wrote the
remember
book
her.
Eat,
Yeah.
Pray, Love?
Yeah.
She's a master storyteller. And we actually, still to this date feel like it was one of the best keynotes in the last 3 years because somebody 38 minutes into a 45-minute keynote says, I feel like I'm having a one on one with Elizabeth Gilbert in an Italian cafe chat, right? And I was like,
Love
how did
it.
you do that? So we tore apart her keynote in vulnerability. Like she just started off and just like, oh, I'm so excited that I'm in my yoga pants, right? There's this piece of vulnerability that she just said, like, when I keynote, I don't normally do that. But the pandemic has given me the opportunity. The other piece of vulnerability that I love from her, Amanda, is that it's not, it's not scary writing a best-selling book. What's really scary is writing the book after the best-selling book, and everyone goes, "Oh, geez, you're right," right? Because now the expectations are like way, way up here, and she really got a chance to work with that. So, anyways, I think vulnerability is one of the new pieces of engagement. I'm going to test. Speaking of something new, okay, Amanda, I'm going to do something new. This is called speed round. Okay,
Okay.
so you have, I think, five meaningfulness strategies. I'm going to tell you that what the strategy is. I just want your like number one tip off the cuff for that
Okay.
strategy. Okay,
Okay.
you ready?
Yep.
But oh wait, hold on. I have a drum roll. Hold on. Okay, hold on. I gotta cue this up and speed round. Meaningfulness strategy number one. Decide what attendees will accomplish.
Okay. So that gets to value. So what is your objective for this meeting? What do you want them to walk away with?
Awesome. What do you want? Some of the most powerful words in the English language. Meaningful strategy number two. Pinpoint who you are planning this event for.
Yeah. So yes, who is in your audience? What are their demographics? What are their problems? What are their goals? What do they need to accomplish? So think through all of those things to make sure that you're delivering to their needs.
This is Amanda's book in like 3 seconds. Meaningfulness strategy number three. Think of how you want attendees to feel after the event.
This one is my favorite. I'm so glad that you brought it up because so the first question, what do you want them to learn or what do you want the outcome to be? That gets to value, but how do you want them to feel? Gets to the experience side of things. So, like with the virtual networking incubator, we wanted people to feel joyous and open and generous and creative. And so think about how you want your attendees to feel, and then you can build experiences to help them feel that way.
I just love that you took the pandemic, created the incubator, and it turned into like a huge opportunity. Meaningfulness strategy number four, design for the outcome.
Design for the outcome. Okay, so now you know how you want them to feel, and you know what kind of value or learning or what a big idea you want them to walk away with, and then start working backwards. Okay, so with the outcome in mind, how do you make that happen and sequence your events to make that happen?
Ooh, okay, and the last one, meaningfulness strategy number five, design for meaningful connection, collaboration, and co-creation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a theory, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, John. I have a theory that the sage on the stage thing is breaking down. Elizabeth Gilbert sounds like she totally carried it off. But for a lot of keynoters and a lot of, say, breakout session or webinar speakers, it's really, really hard to be the sage on the stage. And what people want in terms of engagement is just a lot more connections and collaboration, and they want to participate a lot more. And I think we should be allowing that, especially it works so well in the virtual setting. We need to lean into that. It's very engaging.
So you're right, because I've seen thousands of keynotes, right, since pandemic has started, since right we have all this great time for education, and Elizabeth Gilbert is really one as a sage on the stage that has done it well, which means there are thousands of people who are not doing it well. Here's my number one principle that I've been telling people in designing virtual courses, and that is allocate half of the time for the audience to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And that just turns the entire table. Number one, as the course creator, one, you only have to teach half as much now. But two, you'll find the result is that it'll be so much valuable, more valuable, not only for you, but all the attendees, because the attendees all have so many other great experiences that they can share. They finally get the time to say it. So that's been one of my secrets of my courses, is that we allocate half of the time to ask people their experiences around this thing, and then again, use it to support whatever we may or may not be teaching.
Love
So,
it.
yeah. Well, there we go. Well, I got to have one side question before I move on closer to our close. I see this amazing piece here. I'm going to continue the spotlight on you here. This amazing graphic that you have on your wall. I believe it's some kind of bronze, perhaps henna or India symbol. Can you tell me a little bit more about that piece of art, if you don't mind?
I just loved it. When I saw it, I loved it. And when I was putting together my office virtual studio space, when I saw it, I thought, I have to have it. So that's there. And then on the other side is my little pile of books, and it's so far away that I have to like hold up my book all the time.
But I see too, you have you have some color sense in here because you have a row of books that have like one of each color on the second row from the top. And so I
Yeah.
don't know if that's your book or somebody else's book.
Yeah, so I inherited some really great book sets from my grandfather, and I haven't even had a chance to even read them, but they're beautiful old books that he probably purchased 50, maybe even 70 years ago.
Wow.
And it's kind of like the books that you see in the old-fashioned libraries, and they just this is gonna sound totally irrational and silly, but they make me feel smarter just having them here in the room with me.
Okay, Amanda, this is actually one of the initiatives that we have discovered in our happy hour. If you don't mind, I would love for you, like, if you don't mind, hopefully this is an homage to your dad, to walk over, pick up a random book, right? Open up a random page and just read like a line or two. Would you
Oh,
be
that's
open to that?
interesting. Yeah, let me go ahead and do that.
Oh, here we go, people.
Just do the-
This is Amanda. By the way,
Yeah.
this is a great initiative that you can
Okay.
do. We do it for
So
networking all the
I'm
time.
gonna pick something maybe, not sort of business related, but I'm gonna pick out one of my favorites, right? Calvin and Hobbes.
I love Calvin Ball. Let's play Calvin
Yeah.
Ball right now.
You know what? The thing about Calvin and Hobbes is it's so it's actually profound, right? It's really funny and it's profound.
Oh yeah, that's why it was so good. That's why kids could read it and adults could read it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. So Calvin is saying, Hobbes, you're supposed to be teaching me how to be a tiger. We've been sitting in this dumb tree all morning and you haven't taught me how to hunt or anything. And Hobbes says, it's an instinct. You can't teach that. Well, if you won't help, I'm going to go look up tiger in the encyclopedia. And then Hobbes says, as long as we're going in, let's fix some soup and sandwiches, okay? And then and then Calvin says, you know what you are? You're a disgrace. That's what. Cute, 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 cute.
Beautiful.
I could now that I got it off the shelf, I'm gonna set it aside so I can read some and have a good start to the weekend.
Beautiful. I just want to say hi to, speaking of good start of the weekend, I want to say hi to my good friend Diane Weigel, who's one of our karaoke singers who loves zebras, by the way. Amanda loves zebras.
Nice.
Okay. The question then with this is, Amanda, you are out on your book tour, and one of the things around is everyone is talking about engagement. Engagement still to this day, number one problem on virtual. I do polls, and on average, people say that their past year of meetings or the past 6 months of their virtual meetings, the level of engagement, with one being low and 10 being high, is an average of four.
Oh,
Four, Amanda. And so I would love to know, what's in your immediate future for virtual meetings, and what do you see farther out, or do you have a wish list? Do you have a wish for virtual meetings, Amanda?
virtual meetings. Yeah. Okay. So I my wish list. I think we still need to figure out how to facilitate connections. And when I say we, I sort of mean, broadly, the meetings industry, the association industry, people. So let me talk to you about just my experience with the association industry. So the association industry hosts these big, huge conventions and conferences. And for most associations, only 10% of their membership actually gets to go to these conferences every single year, which means 90% of your membership is left out of the learning, fun, and networking. And so what we found during COVID is many associations were bringing in members to their virtual events who had never even ever gone to an event. And even though Ariana and I prove that you can do virtual networking online, and I know John, you're doing that. It sounds like every single week. There's a lot of kind of, I think, in global knowledge and ideas to share to really figure out how to facilitate those connections online. So I think we're doing really well in education, but the networking part is harder. And I think there's just more opportunities to experiment and for more organizations and more hosts just to lean into, how to help people network. Another idea is I think there's kind of two ways to create virtual engaging meetings, and one of the ways that I've seen people do is really lean into high production value. Something that's so good it's almost like a documentary, but those are really expensive to produce. And then the other way is to create these meetings that are very super extraordinarily interactive and responsive to attendees. So my hunch is that webinars are out and interactive virtual events are in. And I think the other thing is, and this is something that I don't have an answer for, but in the case of professional associations and societies and communities, and industry societies, we need to figure out how to monetize virtual events. So there's this, very huge kind of like push and pull going on right now where associations are saying, we need to go back in person because we need to get our sponsors back. And members are saying, but I don't have the time. I'm worried about my health. I'm not at that level. There's a million reasons why I can't travel, but I still want to participate. And if we don't provide virtual, then we're leaving them out. And so one of the things that I've been thinking about and starting to experiment a little bit is, I wonder if this is going to change the nature of sponsorships. So sponsorships used to just be, let's plaster your logo everywhere. However, it makes me think that a valuable virtual sponsorship would be something where the sponsor becomes an integral part of the content and the collaboration and the connection. So maybe you have a bunch of smaller events and you have one sponsor that is involved in the planning of the meeting. They're facilitating the meeting. They're helping with post-meeting content. They are your co-hosts. They're your co-pilot. I wonder if that model would work, and it's something that I've been just starting to play with now.
Well, I can share some of my own examples from this. Something called GSMcom stands for Government Social Media. So it's an association of all the social media managers for police departments, fire departments. When you see those viral police lip sync videos, these are the people who are doing it. And it's actually achieving goals, right? Such as humanizing police, right, in cities, making other things known, changing brands. And I believe that being the virtual MC, so I got asked to be the virtual MC for this conference. And all those reasons you said is the reason why hybrid should exist. In GSMCon, there were 800 people who attended live, but there were 600 who attended virtually. And by the time 600 attended virtually, now you have some budget to do some things too. It's not inconsequential, right? It's another revenue source. So they used some of that to create a virtual MC. And what I did with that was optimize that experience for the virtual audience. There were some virtual only experiences. And then things that a virtual MC does is I'll log in early, 5 to 10 minutes before the keynote starts, interact with the audience, right? I have the rights to play music. I can do other things. So, often we brought in virtual people in the audience and made them part of the show. That's kind of like, the Disney model is make people the part of the show who are willing to turn on their cameras. And when people saw like, oh, this person's getting stage time, I'm going to do it too. So people jumped in it. And what was great about it is the value too for the sponsor who could sponsor a virtual MC is that MC can create community. My favorite story from GSMCon is last year they asked, is there a way for us to stay together? And I said, well, so I created a Facebook group. We called them Virtual Land, right? GSMCon Virtual Land. That was the new name for everybody who was attending virtual, was Virtual Land. And I told people, hey, I made a group, go ahead and join it. 250 people joined it in an hour.
Yes.
And then the best part is I handed over the reins. I said, I would love to know if two people would like to admin this group for a year. And so two people volunteered immediately, and I made them co-owners of the group, and then handed off the management of the group and got out of the way. So I think there's some great sponsorship opportunities. And look how many people that sponsor can really make an impact for 600 people. And one of the things that Amanda that was so great. Do you remember the Harlem Shake? Do you remember that viral video thing called the Harlem Shake?
I didn't see that one, but now I'm gonna have to write that down.
Okay, so in Harlem Shake, what happens, there's a song that you play called Harlem Shake, and what people did that became viral is that everyone looked like they were bored, right? They would do nothing, and then the beat would drop, and then everybody would start doing something crazy. And these videos went viral for like half a year. And so I asked them to do that during one of the breaks, and they did such a great job on it that the in-person crew saw this video and took it and played it on the main stage the next morning to remind people that there is a virtual audience also joining us in every session, and it blew people away. It made them laugh, but it also made them realize, the virtual experience is viable. And most of them, I just want to end with this, Amanda. Most of them said they could not attend without there being a virtual option. One, because of the time off. The cost goes up, astronomically. It's like 3 grand by the time you add travel and expenses versus like, I think it was like 495 or something for a virtual ticket. And so, in another association that I have too, Georgia Healthcare Association, most of them said we can't get away from work because we're all understaffed, but we need these continuing education credits. So they're able to accredit those and get those to the program to people without having to travel and who can see them not only live, but quite often the replay was also a key element of them to be able to achieve one of their job functions. So I hope that data supports what you're saying, Amanda.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a fantastic story. I love that you shared it because I feel like there's this huge question mark around hybrid. What could hybrid look like? How do you make it successful? And you just described one super successful way to do it. And I just love that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amanda. If people only remember one thing from this today's talk, what do you want that one thing to be?
Okay. So in all of my interviews, I was able to finally define engagement because everybody asked me, what is engagement really? What is it? And so from our members' point of view, from a people point of view, not say the host or planner point of view, engagement is two parts. One part value, and the other part is positive experiences. And so value, when you talk about events, value is things like your content, it's the learning, maybe it's a big idea like that. Maybe Elizabeth Gilbert, she was on the stage to share her big idea and maybe change your mind or your mindset. Values solutions to your problems. So I'm working on this project that nobody else in my whole company is working on, and I want to find somebody else who's working on a similar project. So that's value, and we offer value in our meetings. The positive experience side it's warm welcomes, it's interactivity, collaboration, participation, humor, stories, surprise, spectacle. Like that's all of the experience side of things. And I think that, and this is not just with associations or events, but I think as a business community, we've been beating the drum on value for 20 years now. And yes, and everybody is like so focused on, their value and value proposition and changing the value with their times and all of that. I think we're there. But the part that is missing is the positive experience part of things. And so what I would leave everybody with is every time we say to ourselves, what do we want our attendees or our participants to know, like what do they need? Every time we ask that question, I also want them to ask the question, the very corollary question is, how do we want them to feel? How do we want them to feel when they're registering? How do we want them to feel when they're attending? How do we want them to feel when they're participating? And how do we want them to feel when they sign off?
It goes back to my core. A book that has been quintessential to my business experience is the book called The Experience Economy. The
Yes.
Experience Economy.
Yep.
So thank you so much, Amanda. Amanda, if people want to find you, where will they find you at?
Sure, they can find me on my website at amandaleekaiser.com. So my mom spelled my middle name really strangely. It's Lea, not Lee, but you pronounce it Lee. And then Kaiser, like the role, amandaleekaiser.com.
Lee rhymes with P, right?
That's right.
Like the vegetable. All right, Amanda, thank you so much for your time. Fascinating interview, and I will make sure and also post the link to your research, which is available because it's a great report. If any of you are doing virtual networking, you need to read this and learn from Amanda's experience. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you.
All right, this is John Chen reporting back in from Satellite Beach. We just had a great conversation with Amanda Lea Kaiser. You know, what we're going to do is we're just going to let you contemplate everything Amanda said while you look at and almost listen to the waves of Satellite Beach. And I hope that you choose to do one thing new, that even if you make a mistake, it's better than not doing something at all. From the last report, there's a quote in Amanda's report. It says, "Be willing to try new things. They may not all work, but most will." This is John Chen. We look forward to seeing you on your next Engaging Virtual Meetings interview.
Don't we start